the way I did. This is where the pursuit went to. When I started studying the law of nations, I understood that copyright law is international and all contracts are copywritten. If you and I did a real estate deal and I sold you a home and we had a contract, that's our intellectual property. You sign it, I sign it, that's our intellectual property. It does not belong to anyone else. That's the reason why the neighbor across the street can't come over and move into the upstairs bedroom. He's in violation of our intellectual agreement to work out a piece of property. But it all starts in the mind. Everything on this planet, except for maybe gold, silver things, it's intellectual property. And even gold and silver or anything else that we deem to have a value, that's still intellectual because we deemed it to have a value. So intellectual property is in international law is copywritten. And I'll go real quick into one thing. In Bovier's dictionary in 1856, the word constitution says specifically this: contracts.
Contracts.
A constitution of a contract is the making of the contract as the written constitution of a debt.
So the people that signed the Constitution, this contract was with the people that signed it, and who, for what reason?
It was with themselves. We the people. They were the people. We the people of the United States. Now, understand, in contract writing, they're very, very specific. It was also split up intentionally for a reason, in my opinion, to throw people off of what the document was actually for. We, the people of the United States, ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. This is two different entities, and you will actually find both of these entities in case law.
Oh, you mean the people and the United States of America are two different things? The people signing, David, and then for the United States of America is what you're saying? Two different entities?
It is two different entities, and you have to understand the Declaration did not establish. It said that we were going to establish a government. Actually, we, meaning them, the 55 men, because they didn't do it for everyone either. They didn't do it for the American Indians, and they did not do it for the people that they had that were slaves. And they did not also do it for the subjects that were British American subjects.
They didn't do it for everybody that fought in the Revolution?
They were paid by the 55 men. They did not pledge. They paid. If you read the Declaration, the last sentence, it says, we pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, which means all of our money, all of our property, and our sacred honor. And they were the ones that paid. They were the ones that paid to set themselves free. And once they did the Declaration to form a government, they then did these Articles of Confederation. So the Articles of Confederation formed the government of the United States of America, not the United States.
Now, let's go back a little bit because I'm a bit confused, but I stay that way, so bear with me.
Okay.
The Declaration of Independence, 1776, Revolutionary War, when was that?
The war started in 75.
75.
January of 75, ended in 1783.
83, so it went on for a long time. So in 75, the people that fought in the war, they were paid by a small group of people?
Yes, they built a conscript army. That's what it was called.
And they got the money from France. They borrowed the money from France?
That's correct.
Okay.
You can find that in the treaty.
So then when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, they did not have, you're saying they did not intend that, David, that this covered all the people who were fighting? Because they were just paid soldiers, so it didn't count for them as just the people who signed the Declaration?
That's correct.
Oh, wow. I mean,
see, there was a lot of men, let me put it this way, and there's actually a very good HBO special that was done about John Adams. John Adams did not like the common man because he saw how common men would just take and tar and feather people for no reason, and it very much disgusted him. But he was the one that rode from farm to farm getting signatures on the Declaration of Independence. And there were hundreds and hundreds of men that were approached that did not sign that document. They were too afraid of the king.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this was his job. I mean, as a matter of fact, he even shows in this movie that the thing about Independence Hall and all the men sitting there and at one time signing that document, that did not occur. It actually took 5 years to get all the signatures.
How do you know that the David, excuse me for interrupting. How do you know that all the people that signed the Declaration of Independence did not have in mind that this was like for everybody living in this land that has just been freed from the king? I mean, couldn't they have had this as their real vision that you're misunderstanding?
Well, here again, what I said about understanding history, and I call it the false history matrix because it's a trap. Okay, if you go back and read the old books, even Burroughs on Civics, which was even taught all the way up to the 1850s, said that the governments that were instituted in the United States were given by charters of the king, which established a constitution of sorts for the land grant that they were given. Let's say the Virginia Company was given the land grant to, obviously, Virginia. That's how it became called Virginia. It's a land grant from the king. And in Burroughs self-culture, these grants were called proprietary governments, and they were given to proprietors. Now, we all understand that the word proprietor means it's proprietary. And this was taught all the way up into 1850, that all the governments were formed by the charters and that the governments belonged to proprietors. That was not done for everyone. And there's a very good book you can find online by Ted Nace that talks about specifically the Virginia Company in Chapter 3 and what it was like to belong to the Virginia Company. And that book is called Gangs of America. And you can find it just simply by typing it into a Google search, Gangs of America, and you'll be quite shocked at the real history of what was going on in Jamestown in Virginia.
We're shocked because? We'd be shocked because?
Because there was no freedom movement going on. It was simply a enterprise, established a corporation called the Virginia Company, and everyone that they brought over here for the company, which was the nobility that owned shares of stock, they brought over indentured servants, which were British peasants and British citizens that were not nobility, because they were, when I say citizens, I use the word subject. I use the word subject and the word citizen interchangeably because that's what the word citizen means, one who is subject to. And the nobility in England did not care about the peasantry. They lived off of them.
Fascinating. We are live here this morning, and going live this morning was a last-minute idea. So we do have a small audience because there's always people on our website. If you care to join us this morning, I'm sure you're hearing some things here that are making your head explode. Don't do that. Just take a breath. Here's the phone number, 888-663-6386. If you have a comment and want to question what David Williams is saying, 888-663-6386. I'll put you on hold and then pop you up live. And also emails we'll take live here this morning, Memorial Day 2010. It is Patrick at OneRadioNetwork.com. Don't forget Mitch Batros tomorrow, Tuesday. And then Andrew Goss will be back with The Real World of Money on Wednesday. Friday. Saturday at 6 p.m. So you're painting a picture, and correct me if I'm wrong, David Williams, of the Constitution of being a group of guys that got together, business guys that knew the law, that really wanted to protect themselves and their families.
Well, that's what they said in the Constitution. We do this to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. I just posted a blog up on my website called America's Royal Family because it specifically discusses how the sovereignty of the land shifted hands in these treaties. Here again, everything in the construct, I like to use the word matrix solutions, which is what I titled my website, because there is a construct, and a lot of people, it's like being born almost in Disney World here in the United States. You're born here, and all the rides are running, and you just jump on the rides.
Yeah, it's a good analogy,
And no one questions why the rides are running the way they're running. And for me, once I started unraveling this history, and a lot of this came through word meanings and word definitions, like Constitution, those men were upset because the king was not following the British Constitution. And he was also violating the charters that he had given to them